NASCAR Coast to Coast coming at you on this Thursday, August 20th. Already almost to the end of the month of August. We've got a great show for you, including the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour as they get set to come back to the Magic Mile at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A couple, not one, but two pretty big names entered in this one, as well as the stars of the regular Tour Championship. The ARCA Menard Series hits the dirt for the first of two times in 2026. We'll let you know all things Springfield Mile. And Trevor Ward joins us. Yes, the driver competing for a South Boston late model stock track championship, but also going for a second Virginia Triple Crown. We'll talk about his season and what's to come all next here on Coast to Coast, and it starts right now. Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, where we talk about all things NASCAR Regional and Touring Series from Coast to Coast. My name is Chris Wilner. MRN Pit Reporter, producer Pat Jaggers is in the studio as well, and hope everybody had a great weekend last weekend, whether you were tuned into things at Richmond or across the short tracks across this great nation. I know it was a hot one for many. I know many of you in the Midwest got rained out because torrential downpours hit all across the Midwest, but hopefully we've buttoned things back up and we're getting ready to go for another great weekend of racing. And we're going to kick things off with our special guest this week. He joins us as a driver going for his first South Boston Track Championship in the late model stocks in a pretty good battle with Peyton Sellers, although he picked up his 10th win of the season not too long ago. We're talking about Trevor Ward, and Trevor's also in contention for that Virginia Triple Crown for the second time coming up in a month's time. So Trevor, welcome to the show. How are things? We were just talking about how much of a grind this season is, but you're sitting pretty right now with 3 to go at South Boston.
Yeah, man, it's been definitely a memorable season. Obviously last year was pretty hard to beat. We was going into this year saying, man, we won 6 races at South Boston in 2025. It was like, that's going to be pretty hard to beat. We had a lot of success at Martinsville again in the 2025 race, the Valley Star Credit Union 300. Obviously had a mishap, middle of the race, but obviously this year's been very, very smooth as well, and we really set our eyes out for that championship. South Boston's doing a really great job with obviously promoting this racetrack and, getting the sponsorships in place and having the loyalty bonuses and all the extra stuff that they have that's there for the grabs. And that's pretty much, obviously the place to be over the last couple of years. And, man, just looking forward to, obviously seeing how this pans out and, obviously trying to get my first championship title after a hard-fought couple few years.
Yeah, absolutely. South Boston, for those maybe tuning in that aren't familiar, one of the nicest short track facilities in the country. I mean, arguably, I know you may be a little biased being a regular there, but at the same time, it attracts some of the best racers from across the country, not just in our neck of the woods. So what makes Sobo so special as far as a late model driver and obviously the competition you face week in and week out?
Man, I really think, just obviously the teams, the people that comes out in races. It's, obviously Peyton Sellers has been there for a very long time, and you got Landon and Bobby and all them guys. Deke McCaskill comes in there a handful of times now, and it's just, a lot of respectful drivers that, that's done it for a long time and been in the business for a very long time. He's got a very good team behind him, and I think that, that place just brings that kind of exposure, and it pushes the best out of people.
So at last check, you were up 29 over Peyton with 3 races to go, 4 wins already on the late model stock, point season. What is kind of the outlook for these final 3 races? Do you feel like you have to win all 3? Do you think you could be consistent? How much are you looking forward to kind of this stretch run here to lock up the championship?
We want to just, obviously win races. That was what we set out to do this year, is win races. But obviously, we're not going to push the issue if we, we don't have to. If we're just going to try to be the best we can, do what we've done all year. But obviously, we're not going to give up on the opportunity of winning the races. That's the main goal in this deal. And but we're going to do it in a fashionable way and not, obviously, hopefully keep the nose clean and keep the car clean and look at the best average we can get that night.
So you mentioned winning. You picked up your 9th at South Boston in your career back in July. Later, you picked up your 10th earlier this month. But I know that 9th one was pretty special, passing your father, Dean, for the all-time family win mark. What was that day like? Because we didn't get a chance to talk to you that week. And I know Dean wasn't there. He was at Bowman Gray. But, I mean, the conversations that followed, and then obviously to now, solidify yourself with number 10. I mean, just how special was that moment and the moments that followed?
Yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah, obviously do something that you've looked up to, or like somebody you've looked up to, and to be able to, obviously surpass that. That was a very, very awesome moment for me in my career. I had a lot of I had a lot of things going on, looking towards that championship and trying to have, obviously an opportunity to win another race and do what we needed to do. So sorry about that. I have a dog in the background, but
You're okay.
It's been super awesome to be able to do something like that, to compete with my dad. And something me and him always joked about is like, I was like, Dad, I don't know if I'll ever pass you in this day and time. It's hard to race that many years and race that many races in 1 year like you used to back in the day. And I was like, it's something cool that we're getting close. And then obviously to be able to surpass that, obviously at South Boston, was very, very cool. Obviously to Ty Denny Hamlin and all them guys, it's very, remarkable drivers. It's just super memorable, obviously accomplishment in my career.
This is a family sport, and I could just tell by your answer there how much that, momentum and that historical mark meant to you. But was your dad kind of the driving force about getting you involved in racing, or what kind of got you your start that led to this moment in your career?
Yeah, I mean, my dad got me, obviously, to start in racing. We were, obviously, when I first started racing, I raced motocross for several years and got hurt, and it was obviously a pretty dangerous sport, but, we kind of got someone with a cage around me, and, my dad taught me a lot over the years of racing, and, it was something really cool to be able to share with him, obviously, in 2023, he always wanted to win Martinsville. He's come up a few spots short in his years of racing. To be able to accomplish that and be able to accomplish the all-time wins with him at South Boston was also another thing that was very memorable to me and him, and takes a really big special place in his heart and as a family, all of us. It was very cool to do.
I'm glad you brought up 2023. That was the first time yours truly sitting here in the studio has ever seen the Valley Star Credit Union 300. I'll be honest, I came from a dirt background before I worked with NASCAR, so I was pretty unfamiliar with it and got to work that race for the Motor Racing Network and was treated to arguably one of the coolest races I've ever seen in my entire life. You and Landon banging quarter panels. You ended up taking the win in the Virginia Triple Crown, and yes, around this part of the woods, I think everybody kind of knew who you were, but that really puts you on the national map. Just how significant is a win in that race, and what does that do for a driver's career, moving forward?
Man, it's, obviously, like, from the time I was a little kid, I remember, seeing pictures of me in the grandstands watching, that race when it used to be the Taco Bell 300. Now it's the Valley Star Credit Union 300. It's pretty big deal. It was always, listed in our book as the Daytona 500 for late model stock car racing. And to be able to share that memory, to be on that big stage and have a grandfather clock beside you was definitely a dream come true. And, obviously, a lot of guys, want to win a cup race at Daytona, but that was my Daytona 500, and I'm pretty content with that, so that's how special that was to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a moment you certainly won't forget. So speaking of that, you have an opportunity to go do it again next month as we wrap up the Triple Crown. You're still in contention, second behind Caden as far as the average finishes. So again, could this be a moment that you could celebrate again at Martinsville? What is the outlook going in there? I know we have a little bit of time, and you've got a South Boston Track Championship to worry about, but at the same time, I know you probably have that one circled as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of money on the line for obviously both deals. You got the title at South Boston, and then you obviously got the Triple Crown. But obviously we're doing a lot of focus and putting a lot of emphasis into South Boston, something we never had, and just trying to check this box off in my career. We've won a Triple Crown. It'd be cool to be a two-time Triple Crown winner, but all in all, obviously the championship comes first. It's something I've never done in my career is go out and try to capture a championship until last year, and But yeah, it looks like we're going into Martinsville as well at the end of the year, and hopefully we're going in with the championship behind our name, and a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence to try to capture a Triple Crown as well. So it looks like me and Caden Honeycutt, or not me and Caden Honeycutt, he was the leader going into the Hampton Heat, but Caden Quapple was looks like he's got a 4-spot lead on me right now, and then obviously it could be a mix up between how you are in the race and all that good stuff. But obviously if we win and he finishes fourth, we would inch out by like a half a point or a half an average. And but obviously I don't really know how that's going to play out. We could be back in 20th, and the guy sitting third could be up there. So it always can be playing musical cars, right? So it's we go into Martinsville trying to do the best we can, and we win the race. And if the Triple Crown comes, it just makes it that much sweeter.
And for those maybe not familiar, it's a hard race just to make, too, when you look at like the heat races and how important qualifying is when we do that earlier in the weekend, and then the heat races, of course, the day of the Value Star Credit Union 300. So how much does luck just factor into it, as well as the fact that you got to have a good car? Because we've seen some good cars not even make the show.
Yeah, that's the big deal right there. I that's what throws a lot of people out of contention for the Triple Crown. I think that's what makes that deal so hard to win. But yeah, it's one of the hardest fields to get in. They take 40 cars. You got to run a 25-lap heat race. Your stuff has to be super, super fast on fire off. And you have to go through so many different scenarios that weekend. You qualify Friday, you practice in the middle of the day, you qualify at night, the dew starts to drop on the racetrack, it starts getting slick, and everybody gets loose, or they don't make the right adjustment, and then it puts you behind in qualifying, so then it messes up your starting order for the heat races, and it's just a super, super exciting weekend, man. But you really have to get track position and get a good finish and get a top 10 in the heat races, and set yourself in a good spot for the main event. But yeah, it's pretty hard. It's long, strung out weekend, and your nervous system never calms down.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait till we get out there next month and see what happens. So, okay, we talked about South Boston and the Virginia Triple Crown. By the way, you're also still in contention, just 20 points back of the Weekly Series National Championship. We've seen drivers like, Lane Riggs win that title before. Jacob Gady's done it a few times on the national slate. So, with your 4 wins and 16 top 5s, and obviously there's still a good handful of races to go, how much are you paying attention to that? Or are you kind of worried about, hey, if South Boston works out and maybe the Virginia Triple Crown works out, I should be in good position on that front as well? Because that's another championship that goes with a lot of pedigree as well.
Yeah, we definitely had our eyes set out to that, halfway through the year. We seen we was leading it, and it was kind of a toss-up between a few of us right there. But I was kind of looking at what Connor Hall's got going on, and he looks like he's pretty stout. He hasn't finished out his races yet, so he's not got to a throw-out part yet to where he's throwing out his worst finishes, and he's about to have a couple big gains right there, and he's going to start meeting his way up in the top 5. But we were keeping our eyes in sight of that and seeing how it was panned out to obviously how our results is at South Boston, and then what we're capable of doing. But it's super hard right now. Like in North Carolina, it's kind of hard to get car count, and Virginia, there's really South Boston's kind of the place to be, and obviously or Langley, but it's a little bit of a hike for us to go out there every week and try to race. And but we hopefully the car count stays up with us at South Boston. It's been bringing good cars, and we get good results, and hopefully we can start throwing out making them top 5s, maybe some wins this year, and that would be a big game changer for us for the national for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be an ever-changing list as we get closer to the end of the season, but I know you guys are going to be working hard as that. And finally, before I let you go, because we do have the race to go in South Boston, we talked about the championship hunt. Just what would if you were to take the championship, what would it mean to you personally for as long as you've been racing there with your family and going up against a guy like Peyton who's got, 7 or 8 in his pocket? So what would it mean to you to finally get one?
Yeah, I think it'll mean more this year than it would last year, just because last year was the first time we was going for a championship. So, obviously we knew how long it was and how much, how the grind was to get there and all the good stuff that goes on with that. We obviously come up one spot short last year. So, this year is probably going to mean a little bit more to me. Was able to come back for a second year, and if we can continue to do what we do and capture the title, it would, it'd be a pretty big memory, be a pretty big remarkable deal for my career. All the guys, Mike Bledsoe Mechanical, Jim from Digital Repair, PJ, it's just Clark's Automotive, Larry Pollard, all the guys that's been involved with this deal, man. It's been super, super cool, and they've been pushing me to be better each and every day, and, obviously they deserve it just as much as I do.
Well, Trevor, best of luck the rest of the way on hunting the championship, the Virginia Triple Crown, the Weekly Series Championship, but have fun while you do it. We'll be rooting for you, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. That's Trevor Ward. Again, a big opportunity at South Boston to go for a championship. And, of course, the Virginia Triple Crown coming up later on next month. Play to come here on Coast to Coast, including some news and notes. And then we'll talk about what's going on at Bowman Gray. They've got championship night Saturday. But first, the Kyle Busch Invitational on Friday. We'll let you know all about it coming up next.
3, 2, 1. Start your engine.
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi. Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby!
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. Great conversation with Trevor Ward. And Pat, you were in there listening to it, and boy, Trevor's had quite a run over the last 3 or 4 years, and I kind of alluded to it when I asked him about the Valley Star Credit Union 300 win in 2023, because like he said, it's the Daytona 500 of late model stock racing. When you win that, you go from basically a regular local racer to a guy who's thwarted into the national spotlight, and obviously he's been doing wonders with it since.
When you just type in his name on Twitter, you just see highlight after highlight after highlight, whether it's South Boston, it's at Martinsville and the Valley Star Credit Union 300, whether it's the Ram race for the seat. And I want to go back and talk about that for a minute, because I remember when that first came out, I for sure thought he would probably make the top two, be one of the guys that goes very far and win it. I thought he was going to be the one to win it. And I remember on social, they put out there the story of Trevor Ward and just the reaction from the other guys in the series that saw that video, whether it was Landon Huffman, Minnie Tyrell. Everybody has a ton of respect for Trevor Ward. Yeah. And just throughout this entire process, if you don't know Trevor Ward's name by now and you follow this show, you follow short track racing, I don't know what you're doing, because the dude races everything. He races ARCA, he races late models. You give him an opportunity, not only does he go out there and race it, he usually wins or damn near gets close.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a talent, but I think just even that interview that we've had just shows who he is as a person as well. Well-spoken, and has really got his head on his shoulders and knows what's going on. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out and not only wins the South Boston Championship, but does really well at Martinsville, maybe wins the Virginia Triple Crown or gets close, and then even performs well as far as the Weekly Series National Championship. We'd see him back in an ARCA car next year. You know, Absolutely. He's another guy. He mentioned it. Connor Hawley's watching what he's doing. Obviously, before him, you had the Butterbeans and the Lane Riggs. Why is Trevor not in the conversation to be the next guy to be at least a part-time or have those opportunities in things like ARCA and the Truck Series?
Yeah.
I know money's a big part of it.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, but throw a guy a bone, see what he could do.
I agree. In terms of talent, when you look at somebody that's deserving of a quality ride, and like you said, money's a big deal, this guy's in the same category as the Connor Halls, the Brendan Queens, the Lane Riggs, guys that they have really cut their teeth in these lower series, whether it be the Cars Tour, Modifieds, whatever it may be. All these guys are the same equivalent. I'm not saying they're the equal talent, but they're in the same group of, you give them an opportunity, they're going to maximize what they have, how they can get it done, and when they can get it done. You know what I mean? And I
100%.
just think he's unbelievable. Like I said, if you're unfamiliar with his work, I know the interview gave you a lot of backstory, but just look up his name out there. And this guy is unbelievable. And I wouldn't be shocked if he wins the second Virginia Triple Crown. I know I'm really kissing his ass right now, but regardless, I just think that Trevor is one of the most underrated short track racers that we have in the country.
I know. I have my notes from Valley Star Credit Union, 2024, the last time I worked that race here on MRN, and like his note sheet goes all the way to the bottom. Like I almost need page 2 just for everything that he's done. It's pretty incredible. So appreciate Trevor for joining us. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him again later on in the year if he wraps up at least 1 or 2 or maybe even all 3 championships. Again, we'll have to wait and find out what happens there. Let's take a quick look back at last week. I know we had this show on Wednesday a week ago is because we had the Tech 10 250, the battle at Berlin for the super late models in Marne, Michigan. Tristan McKee, boy, red hot. Turns 16, wins Iowa in the ARCA series, and a few days later flies to Michigan and wins in the super late model at Berlin. Took home the big paycheck there just after his 16th birthday. And then he goes to Richmond and gets a top 10 in his debut in the truck series. So if you don't know Tristan McKee, we had him on a couple of weeks ago here on MRN. Go back and listen, but he is going to be somebody we're going to be talking about for a very, very long time as he just put together a string of really great runs. Congratulations to Tristan. By the way, also right after the battle at Berlin, Dylan Stovall won the inaugural race for Cletus McFarland's late model series on Saturday. In sold-out crowd at Berlin. Cletus was there. Of course, we had a lot of late model regulars, and $20K went to Dylan Stovall for the win. Bubba Pollard finished second in that one. That was pretty cool. NASCAR Canada was back in action as well. They are getting back, getting close to the end of their season as Marc-Antoine Camirand. Again, this was a combo event with the NTT IndyCar Series at the brand new Markham circuit in Canada, just outside of Toronto. And it was Marc-Antoine Camirand that dominated the race. 83-point lead now in the championship over LP Dumoulin. And a really cool story, and maybe something we need to follow up with sometime this year, is former Miami Dolphin and Jacksonville Jaguar defensive lineman Jared Odrick made his second series start. Yes, former football player. He's huge, by the way. Had a career-ending injury. Gets behind the wheel of a race car and did a pretty nice job finishing 14th there over the weekend. So kudos to Jared, but I thought that was a really interesting story, of course, with all of our regulars in the NASCAR Canada Series. The Cars Tour West was in action. Carson Brown got his first Cars Tour West super late model win over the weekend at the Summer Showdown at Evergreen Speedway. Went flag to flag in that one. Bowman Gray, of course, they're wrapping up their championship this weekend, but Burt Myers picked up the win last week. Now the winningest driver, 108 wins. He does have that sportsman win in there as well. He has a 14-point lead going into Saturday's finale over his rival Tim Brown. Myers, by the way, also racing in that Legends division at the Kyle Busch Invitational coming up Friday there at the stadium. The Oxford 250 qualifier, we're getting close to the Oxford 250 coming up on August 28th through the 30th, but Mike Rowe, who just days shy of his 76th birthday, yes, 76 years young, goes out and wins the qualifier over the weekend. That puts him in a provisional starting spot in the feature if he doesn't make it when it comes to Oxford 250 weekend. By the way, he's also going for his 8th track championship, I believe, at Oxford Plains. Pretty incredible. So age is just a number, by the way, for those of you listening. 76 years young, he's going out there winning late model races at Oxford. Pretty incredible stuff. So he's trying to be a 4-time winner, by the way, of the Oxford 250 if he can get it done coming up on the 28th through the 30th. The 13th Napa SK5K at Stafford. Shout out Kyle Rickey if you're listening. Michael Christopher Jr., of course, we've seen him moonlight in some of the Truck Series races this year. Had a top 10, by the way. I think it was at IRP. He went out and won the richest SK light race or SK modified race there at Stafford Speedway. 100 laps. He went wire to wire, and of course he. That was his first win of the year, actually, by the way, in the SK Modified Division. Why not make it the biggest one of the year? So congratulations to Michael Christopher Jr. and all the winners from over the weekend. Then we had a lot of great short track racing, of course, throughout the country. Some news and notes, of course, if you're living under a rock, you may not know, but by now you should know that, of course, former ARCA Menard Series winner, 10-time winner, and 13-time O'Reilly Auto Parts Series winner Connor Zilich made the announcement. Hendrick Motorsports signed him to a multi-year deal starting in 2028 to drive that number 48 Ally Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet coming up in the Cup Series. Of course, really big news for Connor. Crazy. I remember we had him during his ARCA run just a couple of years ago sitting right here, and he thought maybe Cup was at least 3 or 4 years away. Well, it happened in like 2 years, and now he's going to be driving for the iconic Hendrick Motorsports. So really cool stuff to see one of our NASCAR regional youngsters, who's still young, by the way, I believe still 20 years old, is getting a chance to go drive for Mr. H in 2028. Lainey Bice, by the way, also making some headlines this week. We've documented her top 5 streak in the ARCA Menard Menard Series in her partial slate for PRG. She's been in the Trans Am Series doing really well, picked up a West Series win earlier this year at Sonoma. She's going to make her debut in the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series coming up this weekend at VIR at Virginia International Raceway. And I only say that because if you don't know Mazda MX-5 Cup, you need to go watch them on YouTube. Arguably some of the coolest road racing division. It's a single make Mazda MX-5 Cup machine, and they absolutely drive like Cup cars at Daytona, but on a road course. Drafting, bump drafting, the pack stays together, and they typically have at least a photo finish or two on the weekend. Lainey Bice will be the latest to take a stab at it. We've seen Jesse Love do it last year as well at Sebring. Really cool opportunity for her to do that as well, and hopefully we'll see what Lainey can do this weekend. By the way, that's also the division Connor Zilic made his early career in more of a, I don't want to say stock car, but sports car-esque style of race car outside of the karting world. So, and he did really well at it too. So we'll see what happens with Lainey this weekend. Let's look at the calendar this weekend before we put a bow on this week's episode of Coast to Coast. Of course, I mentioned at the top of the show, NASCAR the Modified Tour back to the Magic Mile for the Mohegan Sun 100 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That airtime will be Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Flow Racing. Of course, conjunction with NASCAR weekend, Ryan Preece means he'll be back in the field as well. He's really good at New Hampshire. And Ryan Newman also is going to be there as well. So he's a two-time winner at New Hampshire in the Modified. So we'll see if Ryan Newman can get the job done once again. But he'll have to battle Justin Bonsignor, who's back. Of course, he's a three-time winner at this racetrack as well, where he's had a lot of success. And then, of course, your championship, Patrick Emmerling, Austin Beers, the rest of the field are all going to be in there. Emmerling brings a 13-point lead over Austin Beers, by the way, into New Hampshire. So not out of the woods yet. Plenty of racing to go in the Modified Tour for the championship, and the Magic Mile typically shakes things up just a little bit. I mean, Anthony Nocella had a really good run there. Tyler Ripkema has been good, and Steven Kopsick will be certainly one to watch there as well. The ARCA Menard Series is back, and as I mentioned, two at the top of the show. First of two races on the dirt mile. This one at Springfield, the Illinois State Fairgrounds, the Calypso Lemonade 100. The Audubon Park Dirt Double Bonus, so don't forget that's also in play as well. If a driver can win both of the dirt races, I remember Brent Cruz either last year or 2 years ago got really close to doing so. I think he finished runner-up in one of those as well. But that'll be in play with $20,000 going to the driver that can do it. The last time somebody did it, by the way, was Parker Kligerman back in 2009. So the championship, though, looks like this. Jake Bowman for Nitro Motorsports carries in that 7-point lead over his teammate Thomas Annunziata. And, of course, I think this is kind of the most equal playing field as far as racetracks we will get. The here and DeCoin on the dirt. So we'll see who can quickly adapt to dirt racing coming up this weekend. Sherman, Illinois resident Kelly Kofsky is racing the Allgaier Performance with sponsorship from Brandt, so that's a really cool opportunity. Of course, Brandt, his home is out in Illinois. Of course, we know what they have with Justin Allgaier. Really cool opportunity for Kelly, who finished that second at DuQuoin back in 2016. And then Taylor Reimer, I was kind of wondering who the dirt ringers were going to be. We've seen Jade Avedissian, who, of course, has come from the dirt. Taylor Reimer's been here before as well. She's back in action as well, driving the 77 for Pinnacle, and of course she made her name in open wheel dirt cars, ran for a guy like the name of Keith Coons. If you're ever familiar with dirt midget racing, he's like the Hendrick Motorsports of that world. She drove for him for a couple years as well, so we'll see what she can do coming up on Saturday. Again, that's on Flow Racing at 4:30 on Saturday. And then I teased it as well a couple of times with the Kyle Busch Invitational coming up on Friday night at Bowman Gray Stadium, the night before their championship series. And what a cool weekend it's going to be over at the stadium, of course, to honor Kyle Busch and his memory. All the proceeds from stuff they're doing there is going to go to the Bundle of Joy Fund that he and his wife Samantha had set up. And this also follows 8/18 Day that just happened as we recorded this on Wednesday. On Tuesday, honoring Kyle Busch. So all the tributes coming in this week. It'll be cool to see Brexton race in a race that honors his dad. I know there's going to be a lot of really accomplished Legends Cars drivers that are going to be there. Landon Thrasher, who won championships at the Cookout Summer Shootout. Ben Morabito as well won the pro title. He's going to be there as well. And then, like I mentioned, Burt Myers, who's going for his another track championship, I think his 12th at Bowman Gray on Saturday. He's going to take part in the Legends division as well as Chris Fleming, kind of representing the Bowman Gray faithful. So really cool event. If you're in the Winston-Salem area, go check out Bowman Gray this weekend. Not only Friday for the Kyle Busch Invitational, but also Saturday for their championship event. And speaking of their championship event, as I mentioned, the Ag South 150 on Saturday is going to close the doors on the stadium for 2026. Burt Myers, 14-point lead over Tim Brown as he goes for his 12th title, and I'm sure we will be talking to Burt at some point to talk about that championship because he has been rock solid there in the final stretch run of the season, and we'll see if he can close it up coming up on Saturday. Some other races for you on Friday, Stafford with weekly racing as well as Riverhead, and then on Saturday, the ASA Southern Super Series at Cordele. Cars Tour back in action at Anderson, and then weekly racing at places like Berlin, Jennerstown. Hickory's back in action after a week off. Langley, and then as you heard it from Trevor Ward, South Boston also coming up with 3 races to go, and their schedule is back this weekend with championship night already at Oswego. So that does it for the calendar. Final thoughts, we'll turn things over to Mr. Pat Jaggers.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. What you got?
Well, first and foremost, you buried the lead when you talked about the Connor Zilic news. What about you? Moderating the announcement? Big time. Chris Wilner, how about that? I'm just kidding. I'm just giving Chris some crap.
Hey, at least my phone didn't go off like Mr. H. I had to call him out there during the live stream.
Did he say who was on the live stream?
It was Miss Linda, his wife, so he felt pretty bad about sending her to voicemail, but he figured she would understand why later. But
that's awesome. But great stuff last night on the call. And I really want to talk about Connor Zilic in that news real quick, Chris. How about this? Not the fact that he's going to Hendrick. We saw this with Tyler Reddick. 2311 got ahead of it, way ahead of time. They knew when his contract was going to be up. They signed their guy for the future. Now Hendrick Motorsports takes that same model. Now they signed their guy for the future. This is getting extremely interesting. What we're seeing with free agency or silly season, whatever you want to call it in the Cup Series, but congratulations to Connor Zilic. That's an absolutely unbelievable fit. We got a long way to go before he's going to be in that seat, though, and hopefully Connor can really start to figure things out. His runs have been a lot better over the last few weeks, but once again, just congratulations to them, and also congrats to you. Did a great job last night.
Thank you.
Thoroughly impressed as always, and I'm excited for us to get back on the Millbridge train tonight here at Millbridge.
I know. I can't believe they put this radio guy's mug on TV, but no, that was pretty cool. And, Pat, I'm going to ask you, since we have a little bit of time here.
Oh, go ahead.
So one of the biggest questions that came out of that press conference was, what happens to Corey Day?
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of interesting conversation on social media, places like X, like I was reading last night and some this morning about some fans' opinions of, did they kind of do Corey wrong because everybody kind of thought Corey was the next guy in the pipeline?
Right.
Absolutely not. One, you have to get a free agent like Connor. He's in the Chevy family, and as you mentioned, as soon as it was announced that Alex was leaving and a seat was going to open, you go with the guy who's ready, and that's Connor.
Absolutely.
Corey, no offense to Corey, he's a super talent, and he's going to be in the fold for a long time. He needs another year of O'Reilly. But I think what this opens the door for is the connections that HMS has. Corey's going to be just fine because look what happened to Corey Heim. Remember at the start of the year or even the end of last year when it was announced that Corey wasn't going to be full-time anywhere and everybody threw up their arms and said, well, this is wrong. How do you do that to Corey? Corey should leave. And look what happened. He gets kind of eased into Cup. 12, 15 races. He goes out and wins 2 of them, one of them a crown jewel, but he kind of easily dips his toe into the pool. He's not thrown in on a full-time deal and kind of, drinking out of a fire hose like, honestly, what Connor Zilic had to go through. I think what Connor went through and what Corey went through, people started looking at which model looks best. And I think now what you do with Corey Day is you do the same thing you did with Corey Heim. You work with a satellite team, Aspire Motorsports, Trackhouse. They've got an opportunity to run an extra car on a partial schedule because they have Project 91. You put Corey in 5-10 races next year when he's ready, eases that transition, and that also prolongs the opportunity to then look for a seat, whether it's full-time at a satellite organization before you get to Hendrick, because who knows what's going to happen with a driver like a Chase Elliott in 5 to 6 years.
And
you don't know.
Yes, that's the thing. When we saw this happen with, I want to say Ryan Blaney's not the same example, but it's one of those things where an opportunity became available. They put him in that seat. They had it. It made sense. Timing is everything, and right now, Connor Zilisch wanted a new home. Hendrick Motorsports had one. He's racing in the Cup Series, and his progression in terms of developmental side had been expedited a bit, right? But deservedly so.
Yeah.
He was out working everybody else in that series in O'Reilly, without a doubt. When you go out there and when you win 10 races in that series in a season, that's unbelievable work, and that is deserving of a Cup ride. Corey Day has to go out there and put in that work and have that success if he's going to be viewed as this high-profile, targeted prospect. And that's what Connor Zilisch is, because he's had success when he's needed to. Yeah. He's taken his bumps in the Cup Series. Everybody does. That's why I brought up Ryan Blaney. How long did it take Ryan to figure it out and get comfortable, and then he became a superstar? It just clicks. So for all those people that are taking all these different elements and putting that into the bowl and trying to mix it up and say that the cake's going to come out the same way every single time, no. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and Corey needs to develop. Look at Brent Cruz right now. Brent's a guy that a lot of people are arguing for rides and an opportunity, but where's he going to go? It's not the end of the world to take your time. I think the Corey Heim example is the perfect one, because Corey's bounced around a little bit too. I mean, with Legacy Motor Club, being a developmental driver there, then brought in the 2311 fold as well. I mean, there's been multiple stops for Corey, and it's not like this has been the perfect design or perfect blueprint. I mean, look at Ross Chastain. If it's going to work out, guys, it's going to work out. We shouldn't be arguing about whether or not Hendrick Motorsports screwed him over. I mean, you can't let sports make you stupid. You got to use some common sense at some point. That's my opinion on those haters.
Old Jaggy getting hot under the collar here. No, I like it. But yeah, and to put a bow on it, Rick said yesterday when we were sitting there, don't forget Corey Day's been on pavement for, 15 months, maybe 18 months. Cut the guy a break. Yes. Like they have a plan. So if you're taking up arms in defense of Corey Day, I mean, that's awesome. Corey Day is a great guy, and certainly I hope that you go to his defense, but for the right reasons, like pump the brakes. Like we'll be all right. Anyways, great conversation on that. I know it's not really a coast-to-coast topic, but obviously it was a big news element beginning on Monday with the announcement and then yesterday with the press conference. Anything else, Pat? Looking forward to short track racing this weekend. Who you think Burt Meyer's going to win the championship at Bowman Gray? I would assume so, right?
Well, it's crazy. He broke the record because that one sportsman when we've talked about them a lot.
I know.
I think Burt gets it done. That rivalry with Tim Brown, unbelievable, man. Those guys, this long, as long as they've been battling each other at Bowman Gray, again, year after year, another championship battle coming down to the last race. I think Burt gets it done. I like Tim, but Burt has just had a heck of a season, and that 14-point cushion, man, that's all you really need to kind of get the job done there. But something I'm looking forward to this week as well, just another final thought, really, really impressed and encouraged with the short track product we've seen on the Cup Series the last couple of weeks. Incredible finishes on these short tracks, man, whether it's Iowa, Richmond. It's been a lot of strategy, a lot of different things in that regard, but I feel very optimistic going to New Hampshire. We're going to have another great race, another great finish.
Absolutely. I echo your sentiment for New Hampshire for sure, and of course we wish our friends over at PRN the best. MRN is off this weekend as far as NASCAR National Series duties, but we will be back for the regular season finale at Daytona. Can you believe it? Next week already we're going back for the summer race at Daytona, and we'll see who our 16 Cup Series drivers will be for the chase for the NASCAR Championship, and of course also with the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Looking forward to that next week. We had a great show for you. Thanks for sticking around and joining us this week. For our special guest Trevor Ward, for Pat Jaggers, my name is Chris Wilner. Thanks for tuning in to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms, and head back and check out all the great content we've had this year on this show. Until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks for watching Coast to Coast.